Today's episode is a Father's Day tribute, but it's also a conversation for any day of the year. Because the influence of a father doesn't just show up in family photos or a few memories. It shows up in how a home feels. It shows up in the confidence a child carries. It shows up years later, when grown kids become parents and catch themselves repeating something their dad always did. And I want to make space for something important right up front. Not everyone has an easy father story. Some people are grieving. Some people are healing. Some people are carrying a complicated mix of gratitude and pain. So if that's you, you're welcome here too. The goal today isn't to pretend every story is perfect. The goal is to honor what good fatherhood looks like, why it matters, and how men can grow into it, starting wherever they are. I'm really glad you said that. When we talk about good fathers, it can feel like pressure or like a standard nobody can reach. But what you're describing is more like a direction, a way of living. Exactly, a direction. And I keep thinking about how fatherhood can be this quiet, steady force. Not always loud, not always dramatic, but strong, like a foundation under a house. You don't think about it every day, but everything rests on it. So where do you want to start? With your dad? Yeah. I want to start with the men who came before me, because their choices are still echoing through my family. My father's father, my grandfather, lost his parents young. He was essentially a young orphan. And if you've ever met someone with that kind of beginning, you know how easy it would be for life to narrow, to become only survival. But my grandfather didn't let his story end there. He pursued education, college education, at a time when that wasn't simple and definitely not guaranteed. And then he spent his life working, not just to get by, but to serve others. That detail matters to me, because service changes the shape of a man. It turns hardship into something that doesn't just harden you. It shapes you into someone who can hold other people up. That's a powerful legacy. To go from having very little support to becoming support for other people. Yes. And that legacy flowed right into my father. My dad grew up with that example, work, education, service, and he carried it into our home in his own way. He showed me that love is not only a feeling. Love is also consistency. It's showing up. It's doing what needs to be done when no one is clapping. When I think of my dad's influence, I don't just think about what he said. I think about what he normalized. He normalized commitment. He normalized putting family responsibilities on the calendar and then actually following through. He normalized treating people with dignity. Those things don't sound flashy, but they build children who feel safe. And safety is one of those things you only notice when it's missing. So true. Safety is invisible when it's present, but it shapes everything. It shapes the way a child takes risks, the way they study, the way they choose friends, the way they handle disappointment. A good father can help create a home where kids learn, I can try, I can fail, I can grow, and I'm still loved. You mentioned love, hard work, education, and service. Those are big themes. How do you see them connecting? I see them as a kind of recipe for generational strength. Love is the reason. Hard work is the engine. Education is the tool set. And service is the purpose. Not every father has the same personality or income or background, but those four elements can exist in any home. And that brings me to another man in my life, my husband, because if I'm honoring Father's Day, I want to honor the father I've watched up close, day after day, through the seasons of family life. Tell me about him. He's deeply loved by all of his grandchildren, and you can feel it when they're around him. They lean toward him. They want his attention. They want to sit by him, talk to him, show him their little drawings or their latest obsession. And what's interesting is, he didn't come from a big resource place. He came from a small island. Limited options, limited space, but a wide horizon in his mind. He pursued education so he could grow, so he could provide, and so he could take care of his family with more stability and dignity. That's a decision that changes a family line. Because education isn't just about degrees. It's about doors. It's about learning how to think, how to solve problems, how to plan. It becomes a language you pass down. It sounds like he built something that didn't exist for him. Yes, he established a home that centers on service, faith, and genuine care for his children and grandchildren. And I want to underline that. He didn't just build a house. He built a home. A home has a spirit. A home has habits. A home has standards. And those standards become the normal that kids take into adulthood. When people say, "He's a good father," they often mean something simple. He's nice. But goodness goes deeper. A good father creates stability. A good father leads with integrity. A good father learns and adjusts. A good father becomes the kind of man his children can trust, even when life isn't easy. So let's talk about that. If a man is listening right now and thinking, "I want that. I want to be that kind of father," what's the why behind it? Why does it matter so much? It matters because fatherhood multiplies. A father doesn't just raise children. He raises future adults who will build future families, workplaces, communities. The influence of a father can become a pattern that repeats for generations, either a pattern of strength or a pattern of struggle. And on a deeply personal level, it matters because children are always learning what love looks like. They learn love through the tone of your voice. They learn love through how you handle stress. They learn love through how you talk about their mother, how you talk about other people, how you respond when they make mistakes. So fatherhood becomes a kind of daily classroom. Yes, and here's the hopeful part. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You have to be present and intentional. So let's get practical. Let's talk about how to be the kind of father we're describing. Love, hard work, education, service, faith, steady care. Not in theory, in real life. Okay, I like practical. Where do we start? Start with presence. And I don't mean simply being in the same room. I mean engaged presence. The kind where your child feels seen. 5 minutes of focused attention can do more than 2 hours of distracted time. If you don't know what to say, ask simple questions. What was the best part of your day? What was the hardest part? What are you excited about? Is there anything you want me to understand? Those questions sound small, but they teach a child. My thoughts matter here. And if a father didn't grow up with that kind of emotional language, then he learns it. That's the whole point. Education isn't only school. Education is being willing to grow. You can read a book about parenting. You can ask for help. You can watch a healthy father and borrow what works. You can apologize when you get it wrong. A man who learns becomes a safer man to live with. Next, consistency. Children relax when they can predict love. When the rules don't change based on your mood. When discipline isn't a storm, but a structure. A good father doesn't need to be harsh. He needs to be clear. Clear values. Clear boundaries. Clear follow-through. That's a big one, because some people confuse strength with volume. Right. Strength is steadiness. Strength is keeping your word. Strength is staying respectful when you're tired. Strength is being the same man in public and in private. Another practical piece. Model work that has dignity. Not just I go to a job, but I contribute. Kids need to see a man who takes responsibility seriously. That doesn't mean you never rest. It means your family learns they can depend on you. The bills, the rides, the repairs, the hard conversations, the uncomfortable decisions. You don't disappear when life asks more of you. And that's different from being a workaholic, right? Completely different. A workaholic runs from home. A good father works for home. He understands that providing includes emotional provision too. It includes warmth. It includes listening. It includes laughter. The goal isn't a burned-out father with a perfect paycheck. The goal is a healthy father who builds a healthy family culture. Now let's talk about service, because this one is so close to my heart. Service is how a father teaches humility and purpose. When children watch their dad help a neighbor, show up for a relative, volunteer, mentor, or simply treat strangers with respect, they learn that life is not only about taking care of yourself, it's about lifting the world you live in. Service also seems like it would create gratitude in kids. It does. It widens them, and it protects them from entitlement. It gives them pride too, not the kind that looks down on others, but the kind that says, our family helps. We contribute. We matter because we give. And then there's faith. I know faith can mean different things to different people, but in our home, faith has been a stabilizer. It's been a compass. It's been the reminder that you are accountable, that your choices matter, and that there is always room to begin again. So faith isn't just something you say, it's something you practice. Yes, it's practice through forgiveness, through honesty, through courage, through admitting when you're wrong, through being the kind of man your children can follow. Not because you demand it, but because your life makes sense. Let's go there for a second. What about the man listening who feels behind? Maybe he didn't have a good example. Maybe he's made mistakes. Maybe his relationship with his kids is strained. I want to speak to him directly. You are not disqualified. You are not finished. And your influence is not over. The most powerful words a father can say are sometimes not big speeches. Sometimes they're simple. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I want to do better. Can we try again? Repair is a form of love. And children, yes, even adult children, often remember the turning point more than they remember the worst moment. A father who changes gives his children permission to change too. That's hopeful. And it keeps the focus on action, not shame. Exactly. Shame freezes people. Hope moves people. So if you're a father and you want a starting plan, here's one you can try this week. Number 1. Choose one daily connection ritual with your child. It could be a bedtime check-in, a drive to school, a short walk, a meal at the table. Keep it small enough that you'll actually do it. Number 2. Keep one promise, even if it's simple. I'll be there at 6. Then be there. Trust is built in tiny bricks. Number 3. Learn one thing. Read an article, ask a mentor, listen to a parenting podcast, take a class, or learn a skill that improves your family's life. Growth is contagious. Number 4. Serve together. Let your kids see you do something kind when there's nothing in it for you. Bring them along when you can. It may feel small to you, but it can become a core memory for them. And number 5. Speak life. Tell your kids what you see in them. Not just good job, but I noticed how patient you were. Or, I'm proud of how you kept trying. Or, I love the way your mind works. Words from a father can become a child's inner voice. I love that. And I keep thinking about the men you mentioned, your grandfather, your father, your husband. Different beginnings, different circumstances, but a similar thread. They kept choosing upward. Yes, that's the thread. Choosing upward. My grandfather could have stayed defined by loss, but he reached for education and service. My father carried steadiness and love into our home. My husband came from a small island and still built a life anchored in learning, faith, and care. And if there's one message I hope lands today, it's this. Good fathers are builders. They build with everyday choices. They build with patience. They build with restraint. They build with forgiveness. They build with work ethic. They build with vision. And the most beautiful part is that their building doesn't end with them. It becomes shelter for generations. So, as we close, what do you want to say to the good fathers listening? The ones quietly doing the work? I want to say thank you. Thank you for showing up when you're tired. Thank you for doing the right thing when it's inconvenient. Thank you for choosing gentleness when you could choose anger. Thank you for staying. Thank you for learning. Thank you for holding your family with steady hands. And to the men who want to become that kind of father, you can. Start with the next choice. Start with one conversation, one apology, one act of service, one evening at the table, one moment of attention. Fatherhood is built in moments, and moments add up to a legacy. Happy Father's Day to the dads, the grandfathers, the stepdads, the mentors, and the men who love children like their own. Happy Father's Day. May your home be strengthened, may your courage grow, and may the love you give return to you in ways you never expected. This is Ruth Kongaika, host of Parenting with Love, Light, and Laughter. Thanks for listening.